Hey, Forge fans, it's the Forge Audio Network. I'm Anthony Urciuoli, your digital host. Focus on Forge. Coming at you this week, even though it's an off week for Forge FC. They don't play again until next Tuesday at Tim Hortons Field against FC Edmonton. This channel never sleeps, and neither does Forge, because they're training all week. But we're going to check in with Adam Jenkins, who is a commentator with One Soccer, been on the program many times before. He has the most, let's say, famous, most listened to voice in Canadian soccer, maybe in all of soccer over the last week, because he made the call. He called the match that involved Valour, that involved Akio, and an unfortunate incident where he took a goal away from a teammate by clearing it off the goal line. We're going to check in with Adam Jenkins in seconds because we got to get his perspective on it. He made a great call. I didn't even know what happened until I turned the volume up, rewatched the video, and heard his voice and him kind of explain it. And it all happened in real time. I don't know. I'm fascinated by the whole thing. So let's do it. Let's bring in Adam Jenkins and let's get more information on let's see if he can make sense of what happened. You are probably the most listened to soccer voice in the world in the last week or so. I need to just, so what happened with Valour and the almost goal that did not go in with Akio and everything. I'm sure everyone, I think everyone has seen it by now. Last I saw, there was like 10 million views on that. Now I just have to, I saw it on Instagram with my sound off. So I just saw the visual. I saw it and I didn't get what was happening. So I watched it again, but I hadn't turned the sound on yet. It's like my brain couldn't register what had happened. Like I couldn't figure out what was going on. Finally, I put the sound on and you did an incredible job in a pretty tough spot. I mean, that's something that, if you're an announcer, you're probably never going to see something like that.
And deflection will sit up nicely for him. Tracks it down, opens up to his right boot. Across towards Ricci. Second effort, it dribbles it. No! Did Akio clear that off the line himself? What in the world? Ricci had that going. Akio was trying to make sure it got over the goal line, and in the end, has a goal line stand. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
But you had it, you saw it live, you reacted live, and you did a fantastic job. But I just need to, what was going through your head when you saw it?
The same as everybody, I think. I probably had as good of an idea of what was happening as Willie did or any of the other 21 people on the pitch and the thousands in the stands. It was the thing with my job, and I could not have said this in year one. There is a level you can get to when you do enough of this that you deactivate your brain. There isn't, it's not, I see something, I think about it, and then I speak. It's that the brain part is skipped. It's comes through my eyes and it comes out through my mouth. And that's just sort of the nature of the job. So in that situation, you're right. I'd never seen that before. There's no textbook how to describe something like that. So it's as simple as asking the question that everyone watching the clip, because I knew right away that it was going to do well. I didn't see 10 million, but I knew it was going to do well. So in that moment, it's okay, ask the question that everyone else is asking, which is what the heck just happened? Hopefully a little bit more eloquently than that. And then the replays are coming. So in the moment, you're trying to come up with answers and explanations. Did it actually cross the line? Because when we're doing games off tube, we call it off monitor. You're at the mercy of what you're seeing. And luckily, we had an incredible crew that day that had good angles. But in real time, you're thinking, okay, did I miss something? Did it actually cross the line and it was a celebration or what? And then the more you see it, and sometimes with One Soccer, we'll have this is behind the curtains. We'll have a what's called an ISO monitor on either side of the actual program, which is what you'd be seeing. So sometimes we're always seeing like the live replay feed. So they're scrubbing it back too, because I think the truck's trying to figure out what's going on as well.
Right.
So the more I'm sort of keeping half an eye on it, I'm thinking there's got to be an explanation for this. In the end, there obviously wasn't. It was just a mistake. It happens. It just happened to be on a grand scale. The only thing I could think of, and I've thought about this a lot, obviously, is on the CFL pitches, obviously Forge will be familiar. There is a piece of turf, a square 1x1 that covers where the uprights would go
Yeah.
for the CFL. And that's, as much as they try, that's never perfectly flush. So that's the only thing that I can think of, is maybe his foot's coming across and it just angles him off enough to throw it off. Having said that, he could do that 999,000 more times, and it's going in every single time, as it should. So it was just one of those weird ones. Akio and I will be forever linked. I think it doesn't hurt me personally, but I'm sure it's one that 30 years from now, people are like, "Aren't you the guy that did that?" He's going to be like, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's just a part of our history now.
And it's actually better that it happened all in real time and you called it live, because it's one of those, like, because your reaction was our reaction watching it.
Right.
It was like, wait, what happened? And also, people can harp on the CPL refs all they want. It was a great call.
Yeah, it was.
That I don't know how because a couple of angles you were like, wait, did that cross the line? And then you're like, oh no, it didn't. That was actually a really good
Yeah.
call.
And remember
Yeah.
too, this last weekend was what I call like rookie weekend or next gen weekend. There were, all of the refs for the most part had
Oh,
done 1 game, 2 game, and Michael Venn's case, who was the referee for that match, that was the second game. So that's not to say the second football match he's ever officiated, but at that level, at that speed, just the second time. So between he and the all Winnipeg officiating crew, they got it right.
yeah. No, I didn't even know that. That's even more impressive. And I guess too, you also don't want to embarrass a player. Like,
Of course not.
you want to give him a benefit of the doubt. It's,
Mhm.
and it's never looks good. Like, I can think of old hockey highlights of players making mistakes and the announcers, ripping on the player. It never sounds good in hindsight. So yeah, I mean, it all happened in real time, and it was something, and no one seems to really know or have an explanation for it. And I mean, what was Akio's explanation? Just that he was trying to finish the play?
He tweeted it. He literally just boiled it down
Yeah.
to, I just missed a wide open net. And then he had a laughing emoji, which is all you
Yeah.
can do there. And I'm glad
No.
to see that he's able to find some humor in it and laugh about it. But yeah, there's no explanation. Like, anytime football people are good for like 3 things on Twitter in terms of like sarcastic comments, and that's Pesci and Penaldo, which drives me crazy. Or like that generic, the team will lose their first game all season, and that's it. I've been a fan of this team for 18 years. Never again. I'm going to go cheer for this. And then match fixing, which is obviously ludicrous. It is just
Yeah.
a mistake. It is
I
just a
knew
mistake.
the conversation was going to go in that direction, because it always, people love their conspiracy theory, especially online. But
Mhm.
no, it was fascinating. One thing that gets overlooked is the result.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. We've talked about this, that teams kind of separating themselves from the pack. We're still not really there yet. With the Wanderers being in sixth at 17 points and Calvary in first at 25. I mean, from first to seventh, or rather from first to sixth, to have 8 points separating, we're kind of shaping up to, not only is it going to be a fun second half when we do get there, the playoffs should be fun too. I mean, it is very evenly matched throughout the league.
It is. This is the best way for people who support the playoff format to feel vindication, because it is going to come down to the wire. I really think, like, we're basically at the midway mark of the season already, which is kind of insane that it's the second week of July and we're here already. But things can change. People can go on swings. Sports are unpredictable. It's part of the reason why we love it. It's live. You have to watch it. You never know how it's going to end. But we are getting very, very close with some teams to them being well and truly out of the race. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, anyways. At the end of this weekend, I thought, okay, we know who the contenders are. We know who the mix is, and we know who just isn't there this season. And unfortunately, I'm becoming increasingly inclined to put Halifax into the out of this category. And there's only 7 teams in this league. When you have 2 amazing teams, which we do at the moment, 3 or 4 like could beat you any night, and then even the Eddies, who should be finishing dead last and should not be winning games, are incredibly tough to beat and have put 2 together. So it's not going to get easier for Halifax unless they can do something in the transfer market, find a forward, which is what they so desperately need. I mean, obviously we know Morelli goes out. It's going to be tough. Sam Salter gets suspended. You were hoping for a little bit more than then honestly, it felt to me a lot like the games I've been calling this past week in the W Championship, where these CONCACAF teams are just sitting in a 4-5-1 or a 5-4-1, parking the bus and hoping for the best. And then once the second half subs came in for Hardy, it was like, okay, this is better. Where was this for the entirety of the first half? So they got to play Cavalry. If they lose that game, I mean, you think of the table right now, they're still only 3 points back, but for just 2 matches in hand. They're very close to the precipice of dropping out, and it's disappointing because there's so many good players on that team. There's good work ethic most of the time, but they're in a position now where they have to be near perfect for the next 14 games, and that's difficult.
Yeah, and the beauty of a smaller league like this is that every game is, a 6-point swing here or there.
Yeah.
So,
And
so
everybody
I,
knows everybody by now. There's no secrets.
right,
Like, unless they're bringing in new players, and there's been a couple sides that have brought in a couple. I mean, Valour in that same match debuted Ascanio, who I thought needs work, but his delivery is fantastic. His footwork is fantastic. Those are the only things that are new now. And there's no secrets. The scout's easy. You know the teams, especially Forge, Cavalry. It's just a matter of performing on the day.
yeah, absolutely, and it's like almost every team is each other's rival at this point too, and you can see at this point of the year too is the physicality's picking up a bit. It's a little chippier, and I do have to ask about. I mean, this is not that you have anything. We're on the outside of this, but the CPL schedule. Forge has another really long layoff. There's 10 days in between. It's the second time they've gone through this in the last month and a half. It is funny to see, a team that has played 2-3 times a week even for the last 3 seasons, and now we're getting these layoffs. You can see it. I mean, have you noticed, even just in your experience calling these games, teams on short rest, do you find that they have a little more jump? It's almost just like they're in game mode a little more than maybe the teams they're playing against who have had long layoffs.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. There's rest versus rust, or rest and rust, because if you're off for 10 days, it's tough to come back for the first 25 minutes on the front foot, especially if you got a day that's like 35 degrees on turf and it's hot, and it is difficult. You're right. I think there is something to the fact that if you're playing like every 3 days, every 4 days, that's probably best, because that's what a lot of these guys and teams are conditioned for after the
Right.
past few years. So, there's a lot of quirks with the schedule. I've always said it is the toughest thing in all of sports to do, and that is to build a schedule for the league. But
Right.
nobody, I think, will feel more bizarre than the Eddies right now, who I think are about to start a 6-match homestand. And I genuinely don't know the next time they'll be back at Clark Stadium. I'll pull it up quickly here, but you think they have Forge, Halifax, Cavalry, Atletico Ottawa, York, Valour. They're not home again until August the 28th. So
Wow.
there's some weird scheduling quirks across the league, and it's just, like I said, it's the most difficult thing to do in sports. To answer your question, though, yeah, I think the short rest can be better if you're healthy. The other thing is, if you aren't healthy, if you're on fumes, the last thing you want to do is play every 3 games, because you're thinking, who else is going to get hurt? Is somebody overcompensating? Is somebody playing when they maybe shouldn't be, but they sort of feel the need to? It depends on the team, and some teams are really good at saying, yeah, we'll take 2 days off, we'll come back, we'll train really hard, and we'll be ready. It's just one of those things, right?
Yeah, and before I let you go, I do want to ask. It's one thing I did notice, and even in that Valor, when a clip goes viral like that, and you're the league, I sometimes you feel a little protective of the league. This is going worldwide now. I don't want the league to look, like be embarrassed in any way. I want, the quality to look good. And the crowd looked really good. And I know it's kind of a small part of that, but I'm watching them going, you know what? Because people commenting didn't know what league it was. That most said
Mm-hmm.
like MLS, like that. That says a lot that a brand new league, the crowd looked, it looked full. It looked like the support was there. And you look around the league, and Halifax has great crowds always, with some exceptions. I think York is struggling at this point, and the results on the field maybe reflect that. But it just, I don't know. It just the atmosphere, the fan support. It looks like those 2 COVID years that maybe slowed down the momentum. It looks like things have picked back up.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair assessment. The one thing I want to stress here is Winnipeg has always had incredible
Mhm.
supporters. That sometimes they're one where IG Field is absolutely gorgeous, and when it's full, it's an unbelievable atmosphere. But like anything, you're a 4-year-old team that's had 2.5 seasons really at this point, cumulative at home. They deserve a ton of credit, and they always bring the noise. I love the Trench. I love Red River Rising. I think they're fantastic. And that was, I think, their best since year one. Or I don't obviously have that number right away, but I said the same thing when I started the match. I'm like, oh, this is a really good turnout today. And it was great weather. It was weekend. Like, it's an entertaining product. There's no Jets right now. There's no Manitoba Moose right now. There's not as much going on, and the Bombers are great. So people just want to go to IG Field. Sorry, Ticats fan. Am I allowed to say that on a Forge podcast that the Bombers are great?
You can.
It is objectively a fact, but it's just a fun time to be in Winnipeg. And the other thing too is I won't speak for the league because we are very much not the league, but I sort of take the mantra that 10 million views on your property is a good thing. It's not great for Willie. Again, it's not going to crater his career, at least hopefully it doesn't. It shouldn't. He's way too talented, way too good for that. But to have 10 million eyeballs, in a personal aside, I do some freelance work with the Korean Women's Professional Golf Association Tour that's produced in Singapore. That's very random, but what I'm trying to say is I had people from Korea and Singapore text me saying, was that you on the call on the CPL? I'm like, yeah, that's how much reach this thing has. So maybe you have 8 million of those people who see it, that they laugh and they move on. But maybe you have a few people go, oh, I didn't know Canada had a professional league. Let's look it up. Ooh, I like the branding of that team, or I'll watch some highlights. This is amazing. They score a lot of good goals in this league, and that's more subscribers, or that's more views, or that's fans, because I've always been impressed by the supporters groups from outside of Canada that will rally behind a team and make it theirs. And it has reach. So yeah, viral clips, unless it's something horrifying, which that wasn't, it was just a comedy of errors. It's good for the league, in my opinion.
Yeah. And soccer's the one sport where it's true, fans from all over the world, they want a team in each country or in each league. And, we get comments on Forge stuff like, hey, I'm in South America, but Forge is my Canada team and this is my American team. And so, yeah, it's part of the sport, and it's good. I think at the end of the day, Valour had a great sense of humor about it. So did Akio, and it is what it is. Adam, I know you're a busy man, so I always appreciate you taking the time for us, and I'm sure we'll talk again.
It'll be soon.
All right, Adam Jenkins, always a pleasure to talk to him, and always a pleasure to talk to you. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You can also subscribe to the Forge Audio Network on YouTube by subscribing to the Forge FC YouTube channel. All right, plenty of content coming this week, so I suggest you keep it locked onto the Forge Audio Network. We'll talk to you soon.
We are the Forge, the mighty, mighty Forge. You just don't think you understand.
Anthony Urciuoli and Focus on Forge. Subscribe on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts to the Forge Audio Network.